Hey, everybody, and welcome back. So excited to bring you this third episode of The Gentlemanly Things. The first two episodes, we really appreciate you tuning in. In this episode, we are going to do a little bit of a deep dive into core values. And I'm going to share with you the core values and how we develop them at Henry Davidsen and how they relate personally to me in my life and how we use them in a practical way every single day and the impact that it's had for our business. I really would love for you to think about your own life as you go through listening to this episode of the show and leave comments. Please send us some notes, like, follow, subscribe on all of our social channels, as well as wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm Brian Lipstein, and this is The Gentlemanly Things, where we explore the art of refined living, one conversation at a time. This show isn't about how to be a gentleman, but it's about the art of living like one. Let's jump right into today's topic, which is going to be a discussion around core values. I really am excited to share the core values that we developed for Henry Davidsen and how we got to that point and how we use them and what they mean to us and why that really applies to the idea and concept of living as a gentleman. So what are core values? Some people might describe core values as being your true north, right? That compass that always points in the same direction, keeping you grounded and focused, and really a lens to be able to look through to make the decisions in your life that matter, that are going to align with what you care about and what your purpose is. Really, the idea of core values that we use them a little bit differently through the business, but on a personal basis, it's what is going to resonate with your why as a person and really kind of the culture that you surround yourself with, both in your personal life and in a business setting, and how we really utilize that to make decisions when things get tough. I always come back to, does a decision I'm about to make align with a core value? Does it conflict with the core value? And if so, that starts to help inform me as to how to make those decisions. So let's jump right into it. The story for me, I always knew I needed core values. I always wanted core values defined and specified. But in the busy life of being an entrepreneur and building a business, it was always one of those things that kind of got pushed aside. So I was really excited, kind of oddly, when the governor of Pennsylvania said, okay, all non-essential businesses have to close. I was excited in one way because it was really going to give me time to work on these core foundational elements in my business that I had always just been pushing aside because of day-to-day business. Obviously, I was not excited to have to shut down and cease all operations and have no idea what was going to be happening over the next week, 2 weeks, what ended up turning into 3 months of being closed with the COVID pandemic. But I looked at it as an opportunity to work on these things rather than kind of dismay as to, oh my gosh, how am I going to survive? There were things that needed to be done in the business that just never had the time. And so the core values is one of the great things for us that came out of that. When we sat down to look at core values, I actually hired a coach. I think I talked about a coach, hiring coaches in the previous session, and really somebody who was an expert that would know how to guide me and give me the ideas of how to think through this. And the one thing that stuck out about the session with the coach really was how to utilize the core values. And he said to me, he said, you want to use your core values by looking through them in three lenses. Lens number one is that these values are inviolable. They cannot be violated. They have to be lived every day. And if they're violated, then they're not truly a core value. So you have to abide by them. They have to be 100% solid. And you really kind of want to keep that in the back of your mind. Lens number two is that they have to be lived, and the behaviors that demonstrate the value have to be shown on a daily basis. And then lens number three was that you would give up revenue in your business to maintain these values. Let's talk about that for a second. And let's just go back, right? The other thing that I had been learning at the time, I had just started in the Entrepreneurs Organization Accelerator Program. And just the end of that January in 2020 had my first session, which was about what they call People Day. And People Day is all about how you form culture in your business to work with your people, from hiring, firing, rewarding, and really creating an environment that makes people feel warm and welcome and comfortable. So I'd had People Day in January. Here comes middle of February, middle of March, really, and we get shut down. I have this opportunity to work on something that's been top of mind, and we go through it. Some other thing that was said to me also was that the values of a business have to represent the values of its founders or its leaders. You can't have values in a business if the person running that business doesn't inherently also possess those same values. And so, they kind of are one and the same. And that's going to bring us to the conversation today, where I'm going to share with you the values we came up with that are both my personal values, but also what we've put in place for the business, and something that will align with this show, and how we utilize them, and some stories and examples of how they've come up in real world play. Without further ado, let's jump into it. And let me share that this was really a multi-step process for us. And let me just start at the end, where we ended up with our values ended up working nicely to form an acronym. Not all values should be acronymed. And again, the coach I worked with really did kind of share with me that be careful about trying to force something into an acronym. And we were very cautious and aware of that as we did it. But the acronym did end up working for us. And so our core values at Henry Davidsen, and again, those that align with me personally, really form to the acronym of Be Real, B-R-E-A-L, real. And what that stands for is the R is Be Reputable, the E is Be Extraordinary, the A is Be Authentic, and the L is Be Learned. And I'm going to talk about each one of those a little bit more in detail, and also how we got to them. Right. So you'll see a lot of companies have values that are really universal values: integrity, honesty, trustworthiness, right? These are definitely important things that you want to see displayed all the time in a business. However, they're kind of generic, right? And when they're that generic and they're not actionable, people tend to look over them, and they don't really hit and resonate with the same impact as something that has a verb behind it, something that's actionable, and something that's more memorable and has your own personal flair to it, right? But those are important values. They're important values to me. And when I started with this, I went back through influences in my life. I trained in martial arts growing up, and there were codes and tenets of martial arts. The martial art I trained in was Tang Soo Do, a Korean martial art that's a global, worldwide association. And it's really those tenets I thought about since first grade, where every training class that we would finish, we would recite those tenets at the opening and closing of classes as part of our routine and protocol to open and close the training with the right mindset. So those were some of the foundational tenets that I brought into it. I had done earlier in my career a deep dive with another coach, where we identified values and things that mattered to me and shaped them into interview questions and stories that I could be able to tell. That was really something we try to do for marketing that never truly got used, unfortunately. But the exercise of going through that was something I pulled on when it came back to looking at our core values again as well. And then the last influence that I had gone through, I went through a 3 or 4 day intensive self-reflection psychological development program, which was actually called the Real Program. And I did this in my mid-20s. And it was really one of the most impactful things that I had gone through for my own development at that time. And it really, really kind of sparked things, and it put things into perspective for me. And it gave me some tools to be able to manage maybe some of the chaos that comes with entrepreneurship, and really kind of focus on the growth of the business and the intentionality of it. Taking in those influences, we started to put on a brainstorm whiteboard all kinds of words that mattered. And integrity, responsibility, honesty, trustworthiness, those were all part of it. Lifelong learning, open-mindedness, all of those kind of concepts also were important to us. And we came around with probably 30 some odd words of values that mattered to us. Now, the coach had said, really, you want to have no less than 4, no more than 7 or 8 values. And if you get more than that, if you have 10, 11, 12, again, it gets diluted. It doesn't mean as much. People can't remember them. And if you can't remember them, then you're not going to be living them. So we had to get from these 30 odd things that were all important to us down to that 3 to 7 or so that we were really targeting as the most important, the core of the core. And so we took a lot of the words and we started looking up in the thesaurus, what are synonyms to these words? How do some of them relate and combine? How can we get some of them under maybe one word where we could combine 3 or 4 into one? And we did that. And we went through this exercise very intentionally. We took our time doing it. And we ended up coming down to, again, those 4 key values that I talked about earlier: be reputable, be extraordinary, be authentic, be learned. So we have quotes around be reputable, and we really kind of came down to 2 that we felt were most impactful here. The first quote says, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it." That was said by Warren Buffett in the attributions that we found. And we've all heard that quote probably at some point over our lives, right? Manage your reputation carefully. You spend a lot of time building it, and it can go away in the blink of an eye. So, that really hits home that every moment matters when you're managing this. And when you make decisions, make sure you think about making those decisions in a reputable way. This other one I loved from Zig Ziglar says, live your life in such a way that if somebody spoke badly of you, no one would believe it. That, I just think, speaks volumes that we all worry about what somebody else might say about us. We all worry that somebody might not see the true human that we are. And if they say something bad, we worry that somebody else might believe it. But if you really are living your life in a way that nobody can refute that, that somebody might be upset with you and they might want to take vengeance or whatever on you, it just wouldn't be believed. And I thought that was so powerful. So coming into what we really define the core value of be reputable as, we wrote down the following, tying into the origins of the name Henry A. Davidsen: reputation matters. To be reputable, one must inherently encompass core principles, including but not limited to integrity and honesty, reliability, respect and excellence, credibility, and trustworthiness. Right? Those were all important words in that initial brainstorm. We were able to get all of those into this concept of managing your reputation with a very specific and intentional piece to that. So, right. And then the tying into the origins of Henry Davidsen and the name, Henry Davidsen, we chose that name because of stories we had heard about this gentleman, Henry Davidsen. When he leaves his house, he's always known to be meticulous about the details of the way he presents himself. He's known to be a well-dressed gentleman, and that reputation preceded him. And so when we picked that name because that's what we were trying to help our clients achieve when we were done working with them, and through the work we do with them in managing their image and helping them really strategically think about their wardrobe, that it lands with impact in the way that they show up in the world, and that reputation for always paying attention to the detail, not just in their clothing, but how that psychologically translates to everything else that they do, really comes around. So this first value of ours, be reputable, made so much sense. It encompassed all of the core things that most companies put in, and these things are important to us, but we wanted them to not just be blasé, and we wanted to make sure that we got them in with something that was actionable. So be reputable, that's Henry Davidsen's first core value. And I think about this all the time when I'm making decisions of, well, I wouldn't ask you to do something that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't ask you to do something that would harm your reputation, my reputation. When I'm out, it's really kind of, I think about it, well, it's how you act when nobody's looking, right? And do you do the right thing even though there's nobody there to hold you accountable? you're holding yourself accountable all the time to this. And that goes back to those quotes and ultimately back to the action, be reputable. So that one really sticks out as so important, and it's awesome that falls into our first one. Really, there's no ranking of importance from 1 through 2, 3, 4. They all hold the same weight, but this one kind of comes all the way back to the origin, which is really fun. So let's jump into the second one. And the second one, our second core value, is be extraordinary. And to me, when I thought about what was most impactful in my life and what made the most memories for me, it was always based around experiences. It was always based around how somebody made me feel, around the idea of hospitality. So extraordinary can mean so many different things, and we had to really define it in the way that it's going to show up for Henry Davidsen. And the quote that we put around this was just so perfect. A quote from Walt Disney says, "Do what you do so well that they will want to see it again and bring their friends." Right. And that's the goal of every business, is to grow organically, to be such a great service that everybody has to go out and sing your praises for you. And when we talk about that, we really look at our clients as walking billboards. We guarantee in our process and talking about EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, our corporate guarantee is that you're going to get compliments on the clothing that we make for you when you wear it. And complete strangers will come and compliment you. So, in the extraordinary, it's not just about the final product, but it's really about the experience that somebody goes through. And I'm just going to read this here because it's really important the way we worded it here. But we defined be extraordinary as a life well lived is filled with extraordinary experiences. At Henry A. Davidsen, we deliver the extraordinary. From first contact, we create a unique, personal, and unforgettable experience. Through passionate service, meticulous attention to detail, and deep knowledge, we accomplish our mission to help individuals feel better about themselves and improve lives. And it's all about that. It's about improving confidence, passionate service, meticulous attention to detail, and deep knowledge. So not just attention to detail, but really that extra layer, so meticulous, and being experts in our field so that we can bring the best experience possible when it comes to a gentleman thinking about how he's going to curate his wardrobe, not just to go pick out something to cover himself up, but to understand that it's representing him and his personality, that it's representing the situation he's showing up for, and that it's communicating the same thing that he's going to then verbally communicate, creating consistency and helping to build his brand. That's be extraordinary. And for me, we're always looking around the showroom. We're always looking at the teammates on Henry Davidsen's team, and we're always trying to reward and recognize when somebody goes above and beyond to pay attention to that meticulous detail or to give that extraordinary extra touch of service. We all read the book Unreasonable Hospitality last year. What a great starting point and so many great concepts. When that book came out about the food industry, right, and the restaurant industry, and this restaurant that really was striving to become the number one restaurant in the world, 11 Madison Park up in New York, and how the founders got there and the stories. And actually the gentleman that wrote the book wasn't even the founder. He started as an employee and became a manager and was hired and promoted, but he saw the opportunity to set themselves apart as a restaurant and win this recognition. And he takes you through the book on their journey to get there. We embody a lot of that same mentality and the same concepts at Henry Davidsen. We want you to feel warm and welcome and personalized, and we're working harder and harder every day to make sure that we can deliver that experience every time that you walk through the door, every time that we talk to you on the phone, or any sort of interaction or communication that we have with you. So be extraordinary. Again, just as important as be reputable, but one of the ones that I absolutely love. I think it's what creates the memories, and it certainly enhances the experience of wearing the clothing because of the experience of creating it as well. So with our third value, be authentic, I'm going to start with what our meaning of it is this time, and then I'm going to go back to the quotes that support it. Be authentic, we define as literally the definition of being real. We celebrate individuals finding and living as their true selves. Be genuine in everything you do. This is so important because clothing is an identity. So many people don't understand until they put the right clothing on exactly how much was missing, but they knew in the back of their mind, a lot of them, that something just didn't feel right. And depending on how you identify and how you show up, hiding who your true self is such a burden to carry that we want everybody to be proud of who they are and to feel welcome and comfortable in the space that we operate. While we only make men's clothing, we don't only work with men. We work with individuals that identify as non-binary. We work with females that choose to wear men's clothing. Everybody is welcome, but the product that we make is in our lane of expertise. It doesn't mean that it's only meant for the man, right? So with authenticity, really finding that authenticity, celebrating your true self, living without that weight of feeling like you have to hide something from the world to conform or fit in, and understanding that the people that are important to you will be the ones that accept you. And that if somebody doesn't accept you for who you are, then really they're not the right person to be in your life, right? And you need to get to that point, and it's not easy. So when somebody can get to that point, or if we can help somebody get to that point through the clothing, that we can help them outwardly express who they are on the inside, we celebrate that. We want them to celebrate that, and we want them to feel welcome. So the quotes that we support Be Authentic with, we have 3 in this case. One is, be so completely yourself that everyone else feels safe to be themselves too. Thinking about that, it's so important that when you feel safe, you know it. Everybody feels it. There's an energy in the room, and you don't feel this need to hide or anything like that. So I loved that quote. The next one, a little bit longer, from Brene Brown. Authenticity is not something we have or don't have. It's a practice. It's a conscious choice of how we want to live. Authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, and the choice to let our true selves be seen. And I think that is just so powerful. Again, talking about finding yourself, celebrating yourself. The last quote we have is, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. And that was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said that. All 3 of those quotes just perfectly kind of lined up with what we meant by be authentic, right? Be yourself, celebrate others being themselves, come together, accept everybody, be genuine in what you do, right? Don't be fake, because people can feel fake and it doesn't make it feel good, but be genuine. And if you can't be genuine, then don't try to fake it, right? Just let it go, but find something that you can be genuine in. And I think you'll find your way. And that brings us to our final core value, which is be learned. Be learned, in my mind, is I'm always learning. It's probably a distraction, because I will go and read things just out of interest that really are not related to what I should be working on. But it comes into play. And if I go back to my college years, my friends sometimes used to call me Mr. Uselessful. And it was a funny nickname if I share that story, because I would pull things out of left field to bring into a conversation that we were having, that somebody was like, well, where did you get that? Where did you learn that? How did you make that connection? And it was probably a piece of information that seemed useless on its own, but became useful when the dots were connected. So whether it was information like that or a skill or tactic that I had, that kind of kept showing up. And so at one point we had that little running joke of being called Mr. Uselessful. But it comes back to be learned. And I love learning, which is funny now, because in school, when I was forced to be learning, I didn't love it. And I kind of wish I could go back and redo elementary school, middle school, high school, college. With the mindset I have today, it would have been completely different. And I'm always reading books and trying to pick up tidbits and make the connections. And I think it comes with real world experience, right? When we're growing up and it's forced upon us, we push back against that authority. But once we get free of that authority, I found, at least for me, that I really enjoyed learning. I really enjoyed picking up pieces of knowledge and bringing those pieces of knowledge into conversations with people. And a lot of that I'll be sharing with you guys on this show in upcoming episodes and episodes that we've already recorded here. So what does be learned mean here at Henry Davidsen? Let me actually start with the quotes this time, and then we'll go into the definition of what we've described it as. But the quotes that kind of get me thinking about be learned, I had to break down into 3 shorter ones here. The first, from Benjamin Franklin, says, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." Right. Most people think of Benjamin Franklin saying a penny saved is a penny earned. And I thought this one was just really fascinating. Also tying to my history as a University of Pennsylvania graduate, which was founded by Ben Franklin. I loved the way that tied in throughout my life. An investment of knowledge pays the best interest. The next quote I love because it really deals with humility. It talks about, take the attitude of a student. Never be too big to ask questions and never know too much to learn something new. That was said by Ong Mandino. I'm not exactly sure who Ong Mandino is, but when I was Googling quotes around be learned, open mindset, things like that, this came up. And I really loved the essence of the quote. The final quote belongs to Sarah Caldwell, and she says, learn everything you can, anytime you can, from anyone you can. There will always come a time when you will be grateful you did. And that, I think, really speaks to what we frame this value as for us. As I kind of go into what this means for Henry Davidsen, we'll talk about that a little bit more. So what does this mean for Henry Davidsen? Be learned to us is a growth mindset positions us for success. Well-informed minds make smarter decisions, enrich lives by constantly seeking and transferring knowledge. And we are very specific in those words. We don't teach, we transfer, right? Because teaching is a power structure. It's a authority and a teacher and a student. And at this point in our lives, as adults interacting with each other, I'm learning from my clients as much as my clients are learning from me. So I'll get right back to that quote. I'm always looking for that opportunity to learn something from them, whether it's about their job, their industry, how they got to where they are, some interaction, some life lesson that they had, a social lesson that they learned, whether it was through dating or an interaction with friends or something with their wife and another couple. I try to learn something. There's always something to be learned from everybody. And that person that looks at anybody else in this world and says, well, they have nothing to teach me, is somebody who, in my opinion, is a little bit ignorant and really needs a piece of humility, right? And we've all heard the quote, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're actually not, right? You're never the smartest person in the room. And those are the people that learn the best. So a growth mindset positions us well for success. Right, constantly looking to seek and transfer knowledge. What I take in, I want to push back out and share to the world just as equally. So those are our core values at Henry Davidsen. I'm really excited by them. We developed them. We marinated on them. Really, I sat for about 6-7 months. I shared them with everybody I could possibly share them with. I asked for feedback on them, and we did make tweaks along the way. But we have now really settled into this. And it's really evolved into creating a culture for the company and one that I'm very, very proud of. We've had individuals leave the company for reasons that were understandable, but ask to still be able to work part-time. And we've had people leave and say, yeah, I'd be happy to come back if there were a better role or a different role that was better fit for me. So I think that just speaks to really the culture that we've developed at Henry Davidsen, the way we use them. We look through these core values and we dig into behaviors around them when we do hiring, when we reward and when we reprimand or correct behavior. And then if we do have to let somebody go, if there's a core value disconnect, we can point exactly to what the issue was. And there's no gray area for somebody that doesn't understand. And somebody that doesn't possess these values in their own life isn't going to want to work with us. So we're able to identify and weed out somebody that might not be a great employee, might be in it for the wrong reasons, things like that. we don't just use it with employees, we use it with our clients as well. We've had prospective clients come in and we sit and we talk to them. And if we are able to identify that their values don't line up with our values, we won't take an order from them. So again, this is the lens of I would give up revenue to 100% give up revenue to maintain these values and make sure they stay intact and that they're inviolable. These continue to show up by defining them, by writing them down. It only makes them more present for us. It only makes them more present for me personally, and not just with the business, but now as I get married and I think about having kids and raising kids in the next year, couple years, these values are front and center. And I talk about them, I share them, I point behaviors to them, and they are referenced multiple times a day, every single day. So hopefully me sharing this story with you has got you thinking about what your values are. It got you thinking about how you might be able to use these values with your business, or maybe if you're not a business owner or entrepreneur and you're working for a business, how the values of the business you're working for are aligned with your own, and maybe give some insight into why you're so happy at your job or maybe not as happy at your job, right? And do you see the people around you living the values, right? Are you surrounded by the right people living that culture, creating that culture that is so important? And you hear it in today's world with Gen Z and millennials, and now Gen Alpha starting to come up, but really millennials, Gen Z, they want in a job, they want culture over structure sometimes. So culture over maybe pay. You can hire somebody that's overqualified for a role that is willing to come and take less money because the culture is more aligned with what they're looking for. So for us, it's front and center. We talk about it all the time. It's really important, and it's such a key foundational element that unfortunately I think too many people either take for granted or overlook completely. And I wanted to just make sure that when we talk about being a gentleman, right, and living life as a gentleman, right, the intentionality that we're talking about, our time, that we're defining our time well, and we're utilizing guideposts to make sure that we spend our time in the right way with good intentions that are driving us toward our end goal and where we want to be. That's what I have for you today. Would love for you to leave some comments, engage with us on our social platforms. I'd love to hear your feedback. How are you using core values in your life? How do they show up for you? What do you think about our core values? Please let me know. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do they resonate? What values do they align with in your own life? But the challenge for you is to go and see where the behaviors that you do on a daily basis align with the values that you've defined for yourself, or align with the values of your companies that you're working in or creating. Thank you again for joining us. Episode 3 here of The Gentlemanly Things. You can find us on all of the social channels. Like, subscribe. Please share this. I'm so excited that we've got this rolling, and I hope the next episode or two, we've got some exciting guests that are going to be bringing some more knowledge about various industries, pointing right to that be learned core value of ours. I can't wait to learn right alongside of you guys in some of these interests of these categories, right? So again, this is The Gentlemanly Things. The show is not about how to be a gentleman, but it's about the art of living like one. And we are going to explore the art of refined living, one conversation at a time. Thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you on the next episode.